works against the idea of progressive history and in favor of a critical perspective on social suffering. But it's still, oddly enough, a messianic position, and it is, oddly enough, a Jewish one. I think of Raz Kropotkin as coming out of that tradition in Judaism. I think that, as well, for those of you who follow contemporary politics, that the right-wing settlers are very often messianic and anti-Zionist. They don't accept the authority of the Israeli state because it's a secular state in their minds. It doesn't have religious authority. They are following God. They are following a religious mission. So some of the fights among the right-wing messianists are really with the Zionist entity. So they can be messianists, they can even be Zionists of a certain kind, but they can be anti-statist. And they can be to the right of even Netanyahu and Lieberman. Okay. So you have a left-wing messianism like Benjamin and Raz Kropotkin a little bit. And there's some other things he's written that actually show that he has a certain kind of religious framework, even for his own social criticism, although he doesn't come out with that here. And then you have right-wing, both of which in some ways question the state. And then you have state Zionism, which is also called political Zionism, which triumphed over cultural Zionism and binational Zionism in the 40s. Okay, so, and that's, you know what, that's just a sketch. That's just a sketch. It gets, it gets worse. It gets complicated. It's really hard to say whether there's a religious moment in Arendt, and I think there probably isn't. At least she would deny it. But I thought I might at least remind you, how many of you know or are already familiar with the famous letter that Gershom Scholem wrote to Hannah Arendt after the Eichmann trial? Some of you. Okay, good. Well, I can introduce you to a really amusing moment in 20th century history. After Arendt wrote Eichmann in Jerusalem, Scholem was very angry. They had been very close friends. They had indeed worked together, and they had, as Raz Kropotkin makes clear, shared in a certain kind of binational vision prior to World War II and prior to the concentration camps. Scholem wrote to Arendt, and he called her heartless for concentrating dispassionately on Eichmann's understanding of himself as a functionary. And I find this interesting, this heartlessness, because it's the exact same criticism that was made of Primo Levi when in 1982, and he's, of course, maybe the most famous European survivor of the concentration camps. In 1982, he was so upset with the massacre of Sabra Shatila in southern Lebanon and with the Israeli participation in that massacre that he signed a protest in La Repubblica and called on Ariel Sharon to resign and questioned whether people could support the state of Israel under these conditions. And he was also called heartless for saying that, although he was obviously, it was in the name of a certain suffering that he was taking his political stand. So it's another moment of name calling, right? Another moment of name calling. In any ways, this is what Scholem says to her. It's actually quite amazing. He says, in the Jewish tradition, there is a concept hard to define and yet concrete enough, which we know as Ahavat Israel, love of the Jewish people. In you, dear Hannah, I love that one. You, dear Hannah, oh my. As in so many intellectuals who came from the German left, I find little trace of this love of the Jewish people. And I just have to say, luckily, Arendt says that she does not come from the German left, and that's good, because she does not come from the German left. And this is somebody whose anti-Marxism is really stunning, even though she had a kind of soft socialist beginning, and in some of the work uses an economic analysis that looks pretty Marxist in ways. Okay, we're not going to get involved in that. She writes back, because he's worried. He says, no one could write Eichmann in Jerusalem without loving the Jewish people. She writes back, you are quite right. Okay, well, we saw her yesterday, right? You are quite right. I am not moved by love of this sort, and for two reasons. I have never in my life loved any people or collective, neither the German people, nor the French, nor the American, nor the working class, or anything of that sort. I indeed love only my friends, and the only kind of love I know of and believe in is the love of persons. Secondly, this love of the Jews would appear to me, since I am myself Jewish, as something rather suspect. I cannot love myself or anything which I know is part and parcel of my own person. This is, by the way, from Augustine. This is what she says on Augustine in love. So we're having a little Christian moment in the Jewish self-confession. Okay, whatever. To clarify this, let me tell you of a conversation I had in Israel with a prominent political personality, and it was actually Golda Meir, who was defending in my opinion, disastrous non-separation of religion and state in Israel. What she said, I'm not sure of the exact words anymore, ran something like this, and this is Golda Meir then. You will understand that as a socialist, I of course do not believe in God. I believe in the Jewish people. Arendt. I found this a shocking statement. It being too shocked, I did not reply at the time. But I could have answered, this is important, the greatness of this people was once that it believed in God and believed in him in such a way that its trust and love towards him was greater than its fear. And now this people believes only in itself? What good can come out of that? Well, in this sense, I do not love the Jews, nor do I believe in them. I merely belong to them as a matter of course, beyond dispute or argument. Okay, beyond dispute or argument. And then she says something really, I think, quite amazing. Sholem writes to her, dear Hannah, and he calls her you're a daughter of the Jewish people, how could you have written this book? And she replies, I've never pretended to be anything else or to be in any way other than I am, and I have never felt tempted in that direction. It would have been like saying that I was a man and not a woman. Oh my God. See, these things are interlinked, I'm telling you. It would have been like saying that I was a man and not a woman. That is to say, kind of insane, she says. In German, I think it's wahnsinnig. Oh my. She goes on to term being Jewish as an indisputable fact of my life, and then she says, there is such a thing as a basic gratitude for everything that is as it is, for what has been given and not made, for what physé, I put it up here, physé, kind of what nature, physical nature, and not nomo, what is physé and not nomo, N-O-M-O, in other words, not belonging to the domain of the social order. So, it's a kind of stunning thing to say, because if to say I'm not a Jew is like saying I am a man, then both are understood, gender and religion are understood to be physé, natural, physical fact. Right? So, no Simone de Beauvoir here. And it seems to me extremely interesting that she understands it as a given, and also